One of these is a cult classic and the other is the new kid on the block, but have these two got more in common than you might have thought? Hello and welcome back to the channel, and yes, today I'm going to be taking a look at Springbank 10 versus Ardnamurchan AD. Both of these are the entry-level core releases for both of these distilleries, and well, to be honest with you, I never even thought about trying these head-to-head until last weekend, where I thought, I fancy a whiskey, I fancy a scotch, and you know what, I fancy something quite flavourful, and I went for the Springbank, and then I thought, you know what, Springbank, it's hard to get, it's limited numbers, it can be expensive or go to a lot of effort to get one, so no, I'll have something else. And I went, oh no, you know what, the Ardnamurchan is the opposite of that. It's readily available, very reasonably priced, and well yeah, that also just tickled my fancy. I poured a dram, took a sip and went, well hold on, I wanted a Springbank and this seems to be delivering a lot of what that promises, so it's going to be interesting today to find out just how similar they really are. Just before we get into tasting though, how similar are they other than the flavour profiles? Well, they're both single grain Scotch whiskies, so that's a start. But there's more. Of course, Springbank is legendary. It's been around for a good while now, and it is, well yes, the cult hero classic. On the flip side, Ardnamurchan, relatively new distillery by Scotch standards, and as a result doesn't currently, I believe, well that may have changed by the time this releases, have any age statements out, i.e. they're all under 8 or 10 years. This is around 4, I believe, this regular AD, but yes, that is going to be a difference. The Springbank 10 year, the AD non-age statement, but 4 to 6 at best. That's the differences. Similarities. ABV. The Springbank comes in at 46%, or I guess that's 92 proof. The Ardnamurchan 46.8%. That's going to be 93.6 proof if my maths is correct. So both about the same, if we're honest, slightly higher on the Ardnamurchan, but pretty much level pegging. In terms of geography, okay, they are a reasonable distance away. I'll put it on screen now because I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but they aren't exactly close by Scotch standards. By US standards, they're next door neighbours, but yes, when it comes to Scotch, a lot of distilleries are a lot closer than these two are. But they're both on the west coast, and they're both, well, out in the sea. Although both are attached to the mainland, they are on peninsulas, if you like. They are really flung out into the middle of the North Sea. Springbank a little more to the south, Ardnamurchan more to the north and towards the Isle of Skye, but yes, they're both in that area of water and both along that very rugged westernly Scottish Highland coastline. So yeah, there are definitely some similarities there. And to add, the general description of both of these are single malt Scotch whisky that's lightly peated. So yeah, it should be pretty similar, but of course, as we know, should be doesn't always mean it really is. So let's get some glasses pouring. Now, I'm probably going to upset a lot of people here. I like the Springbank. It's simple, it's old school, it's not trying to be poncy, but the cork and that is just maybe a little dull. The Ardnamurchan has got an embossed bottle, which I always think is just very nice, and has a wicked wooden engraved top to the cork, which again is just something I rather like. It doesn't mean that the whiskey's better, it just means that it feels a bit more of an event, but let's be honest, Springbank don't need to make their stuff an event because we know that it already is. In the glasses then, they do look pretty similar. Both of these non-chill filtered, no colouring added. They are pretty pale, and yes, the Springbank, this one, does look a smidge darker. You would expect it to. It's a damn sight older. But considering that the AD doesn't have an age statement whatsoever, there's really not a lot between them. They are very, very similar, light gold, kind of, straw yellow looking Scotch whiskies. So then into the aromas. The Springbank first. Big, sweet, mineral heavy, slightly dank, damp. It keeps going. It's, to be honest, got even better since the last time we reviewed this, which was about 3 months ago. And fruity, weirdly citrusy and kind of tropical fruit vibes. And of course, you know I was going to say it, a load of damp blankets in an old sheep barn. It has got that very rural character to it, although admittedly a bit less than it has in some previous testings. The Ardnamurchan. Oh, that smells wildly different to what I thought it did, having gone back to back with the Springbank. It's got a slightly, and I don't know how to say this politely, there is something that is not entirely unreminiscent of a pub toilet. Now, that sounds really harsh. I actually quite like the smell of this, but there is something in there, and it's not the human excrement part that we're talking about. It's like slightly stuffy, a bit of kind of booze-soaked stain, but also the kind of cleaning character of, well, a urinal cake, if I'm totally honest. But it's quirky, it's funky, it's a little bit fruited, more stone fruit, peachy in this one. It's, go back to back for a second. It doesn't come across as peated, as heavy, or as rural, but curious. I definitely don't remember the Ardnamurchan smelling like that, and I tried it about 4 days ago, so who knows. Anyway, let's get into some tasting, shall we? First in, with the Springbank. Cheers. Big. It takes your breath away a little bit at the start. It's hot, but it's sweet and smoky. It's dank, but it's floral. It's a constant contrast, this whiskey. It does a lot of things very well, including keeping you guessing what's coming next. It is about as far from mass-produced supermarket Scotch as you can get with a brand name that people may still recognise, really. For me, it is just a big old step apart. And look, we know I like it. I've reviewed it now 6 times over the course of last year, or maybe this is the 6th, but you know, we're well frequented with this bottle, and it's very nice indeed. I can't pick out any huge flaws with it at this point in time. It's not too warm. We found out in the summer this wasn't great, but right now, early March, it is doing the business, and yeah, tastes exactly like a Springbank should. But in my mind, last weekend, I poured one of these and thought, you know what, that might be a great side-by-side comparison. This might be what you want for that Springbank fix when you can't get the real deal because, well, it's gone crazy on the secondary market and all the rest of it. So, was I right? Well, we're about to find out. Cheers. Thankfully, it tastes a load better than the aroma suggests. It's sweeter than Springbank. Again, maybe not a surprise because of that younger age. A bit more floral. It's a bit more, well, it's a bit more one-dimensional in parts, maybe less layered and certainly less concentrated flavour. It's also a whole lot less kind of damp sheep barney, but that's also probably no surprise. But it does give this interesting, same kind of contrasting experience, which is it's a bit sharp, then it's a bit sweet, and then it's a bit antiseptic-y, iodine-y, then it's a little bit more floral to balance it off, and it kind of goes in sways where it kind of goes to the not negative but the more challenging flavour, then back into the very easy one, then over again, very much in the same way that Springbank does. The depth isn't there, nowhere near, but yeah, it doesn't necessarily make for a good replacement, but if you can't get Springbank, then I think it, well, just might be worth a shout. The problem with that statement though is this Campbeltown Loch. This is technically a Springbank product, or a J&A Mitchell product to be more precise about the distillery, but or at least the company that owns the Springbank distillery. But it does say Springbank on the top of the bottle there, and this is a blend. So arguably this is their entry-level product. Price-wise, definitely a lot closer to the Ardnamurchan than the Springbank is. But also, while I've reviewed this before and said this is what you should buy if you can't get its big brother, and well, now I'm making a counterclaim, so we need to find out how this stacks up in this particular menage a trois. Only a tiny taste because, well, it would be obscene to drink 3 whiskies in a day. And by on a day, I mean a day that is not a weekend, of course. So this, on the nose, a lot of the sherry cask finish, a little bit of menthol, a little bit of chocolate mint coming through, interestingly. Maybe it's just because there's such a small amount in the glass, but a few more ethanol notes possibly either than the other two. It's definitely a bit more alcohol potent. That really does smell like mint chocolate chip ice cream, like a good one, like a stracciatella, like weird. Anyway, it's not a complaint. Cheers. That has got a bit of the funk because it is Campbeltown whiskey. It's a load sweeter, certainly, than the Springbank. Very similar level of sweetness to the Ardnamurchan, and it's a bit too easy. This has more of the essence, of the soul, of the oddity of Springbank. It is that Campbeltown funk, and that's probably no surprise. But if I then step it into Springbank, they feel similar, but whilst the Campbeltown Loch is a 25% interest rating, the real deal is, well, up at 75. Like, it's a big old gap in terms of intensity, flavour, variety and everything else. But then come back to the Ardnamurchan. Sweetness still licks, but it is bolder, it is richer, it's more dynamic, and I think it's it's more of an event than the Campbeltown Loch. If you need to know whether Springbank's for you, I still think Campbeltown Loch is the way to go. But if you already know that you like it, and you want something that's not necessarily as challenging, but certainly along the same lines and has a lot of those nice coastal tones, then, well, rather than just going for its much sweeter, much easier to consume younger brother, yeah, I think the Ardnamurchan might be the way to go. So what does it all mean? Well, what it really means is there's no beating the original. Let's be honest, that is absolutely fantastic. But if you just need some Campbeltown in your life, then, well, that Campbeltown Loch is the option. But for something that feels similar, even if it doesn't share a lot of commonality, bit of a contrast or contradictory there, but you get the idea. Its delivery is similar, and it's just the delivery. The delivery is similar, even if the tones aren't wholeheartedly the same. That Ardnamurchan AD is a wonderful dram, and, well, both of the alternatives, of course, are a lot cheaper than the original. And yeah, what would I go for? Honestly, there's most things in, as you can see by the shelving behind me. Depends on the day. I like having all of them knocking around. And that really is all I've got to say about it. So as always, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like it. If you haven't already, subscribe if you will be so kind. And I'll catch you next time. Cheers.